Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee McKenna. I'm a therapist and healer in San Francisco, and I've noticed a disturbing trend this week. I don't think it's anything new in human behavior, but I think it's particularly up for a lot of people right now, and it's the idea of feeling guilty if you're doing okay when other people might be suffering, and maybe even withholding pleasure from yourself as a way to feel compassionate to others and hiding what's good in your life so that other people won't feel bad. Although this is totally human and understandable, it's not only unwise, it's unhelpful, even to the people who are suffering. One of my favorite quotes from Marianne Williamson speaks to this directly. She says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And so I've had a couple clients this week that we've talked about this. Really sensitive people that can feel the suffering that's in the world and the fear and angst that a lot of people have. There are a lot of people sick, there are a large amount of people dying, and that's really intense. But I was reading an Instagram post from this influencer that I follow, and she said she's so happy in her relationship right now. She's feeling really calm and peaceful and connected with her kids in this time of staying at home, and she feels really bad talking about that, like it's rubbing salt in other people's wounds. I thought to myself, I don't know where we get that idea that our joy brings other people pain. Now, certainly, the contrast between my suffering and your joy and prosperity can really shine a light on the tragedy and the travesty and the dysfunction in my own life. And I might not like that light to shine on that stuff, but I really need to see my dysfunction. Suffering, pain, difficulty, those are all information. They're the guardrail that lets us know something's wrong and needs to be fixed. If I don't want to point to somebody else's difficulties, then I'm actually doing them a disservice. Now, the idea might be that I don't want to make them feel bad about their circumstances, but if my circumstances are terrible, I should feel bad about them. In fact, the pain of feeling bad about my circumstances is often the most important thing I need to get motivated to make the difficult changes it takes to make my life different. It's generally only when the pain of being where I am is greater than the fear of moving into the unknown that I'm going to make change. Although the idea of feeling guilty about being good in the face of other people's suffering is an aspect of what I call energy matching. And energy matching is a really normal human thing that we do. It's a relational thing where people kind of want to resonate on the same wavelength. Interactions are easier and flow more smoothly when people are kind of in the same place. However, it's very easy to energy match down. That's why things like gossip and fearful projections of the future, talking about how terrible things are things people can tend to gravitate toward, but what they do is they bring everyone down. I really feel like the most loving thing we can do is actually call people to resonate up. This doesn't mean shoving my prosperity in the face of someone in poverty. It's more about sharing the prosperity that I have in an honest and humble way, because that prosperity may be available for everyone. It's more along the lines of telling the truth. So for myself, I have to be honest, this period of sheltering at home has been incredibly peaceful for me. I woke up this morning and I thought, this is like a retreat. The weather has been really beautiful in San Francisco on and off. I've been able to do some work in my yard I haven't done in years. I'm doing artwork. I'm still working, still seeing clients, still recording podcasts, but there's a silence that's really valuable for me. Now, I'm well aware that there are a lot of people having a very different experience. One of my son's friends is one of 6. The house is super chaotic. He's a really sensitive person. He can't escape. I know this is terrible for him. Talked to somebody this week who has an eating disorder, and being socially disconnected from her friends has made it much worse for her. She's put on a ton of weight. This is a really challenging time for her. The thing that I've learned as a therapist, I work with people suffering all the time. That's my job, is to sit with other people suffering. It's very clear to me that as we move through life, each of us has our own individual experience. You can have 10 people or 10 million people or 8 billion people all having the same experience, and they're each going to have their own perspective on it. And we're allowed that. We each have our individual work to do, and life is constantly calling us to grow through our circumstances. And the difficulties in our life, that's our particular work. Those are the things for us to overcome, to outgrow. Where do we need to gather power? What do we need to let go of? Help is always available. And like Marianne Williamson says, we are powerful beyond measure. And it's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us or that people find most difficult. So how do I maintain or manage my own light in the face of great darkness? Very important question. The most powerful place to sit in any kind of disparity is compassion. And there's a difference between compassion and empathy. And it's an important difference. Empathy is when I actually feel another person's feelings. I put myself in their position and I feel the feelings as if they are my own. Compassion is when I have understanding for another person's situation and I have empathy for their feelings, but I understand that they are not my own and I have a desire to be helpful. The problem with empathy is that in feeling another person's feelings, in putting myself in their shoes, I'm actually running their life circumstances through my own individual filters. And again, you can have 10 people in the same situation, have 10 different experiences. And I'm actually, in empathy, often projecting my unresolved emotional issues and my pain of how I would feel in a certain perspective onto the other person and assuming they would feel like I would feel if that happened to me, which may or may not be true. In fact, it's usually not, because each of us has our own unique perspective, and I can never really know how another person feels. In compassion, which to me is the more powerful of the two, I extend myself to have understanding for their situation, also holding the understanding that I don't really know how they feel. And for me, there's an added value of respect for the other person's process. I remember when my parents died. My mother died in December and my father died the following June. And I had all kinds of people come up to me in both of those situations, assuming that I was feeling a particular way, rather than actually asking me how I felt. They were projecting how they would feel if their parents died 6 months apart from each other. And I had a really different experience. I had an incredibly difficult relationship with my mother. My last interaction with her was quite negative. When she called me to tell me that she was going on hospice, I said, I want to come see you. And she said, oh, I don't want to see you. Wrong answer, Mom. I went to see her anyway. That's a long story. And she died 10 days later. And I wasn't sad. The saddest thing about my mother's death was that we never really had a close relationship. She was incapable. When my father died in June, my father hadn't spoken to me in 7 years. That was his choice, not mine. He met my children once and didn't acknowledge them. His death was a relief. That's just what's emotionally true. There's some idea that we should feel a certain way when our parents die, but the authenticity of those relationships was that they were really difficult and painful for me. And the fact that they are gone was actually a burden lifted, that I didn't have to be continually trying to deal with these super dysfunctional people. And the universe has been incredibly generous to me. I have an amazing and extensive family of choice, which includes some amazing parents. So the idea of compassion is to really understand another person's perspective, knowing that you can never fully feel it. Certainly we can feel into people's feelings, but a lot of what we feel, particularly if it's deep suffering, is our own unresolved suffering. Not always, but we need to be careful of what we project onto other people that's actually our own work. Unfortunately, we live in a culture which believes that pain is bad and should be avoided or eradicated at all costs. Now, certainly there are times to medicate pain, but there's a risk involved, and the risk is that we don't get the information that pain offers. Pain tells us that something is wrong, that a correction is being called for, and that personal growth is required. Pain is a great motivator. It makes us willing to do and try things that we would never be willing to do or try if we were feeling okay. There are all kinds of ways that we medicate our pain. We can ease emotional and existential suffering with drugs and alcohol, addictive relationships, food, sex, body image, overworking, social media, shopping. Even spiritual and religious practice can be used as a way to leave our bodies and deny reality. Each of us has a roadmap through our life, and it's our own experience. Joy and pain are the compass. Joy pulls us forward to the open road of our own personal growth, and pain lets us know we've hit the guardrail or are driving in the wrong direction. Joy and pain are available as information for us on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, professionally. Always we get all kinds of pain to give us information about our life, what's going well, what's going poorly, and if we pay attention and learn that language, we can recognize the gifts our own feelings hold, and that's part of the work of becoming an emotional grown-up. So while it's important and even imperative to have compassion for the suffering of others, to try to help the disadvantaged, if we move too deeply into empathy, then we lose our own ground in our own reality and we become disempowered. We get stuck in our projection of the suffering of others, pulled out of our own power, and then we're rendered incapable of helping or being productive. From my perspective, we're all here to help each other, and we help each other using our own gifts and talents. The best thing I can do is to be in my own truth, to be grounded in my own highest self, and to bring that in service of others. And I don't do that to say, ha, 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 my life's great, you suck, because that's not helpful. But like the Instagram post that I read last night, the woman apparently divorced out of an abusive relationship, and she's now in a really happy marriage and a blended family. And she was saying how she doesn't want to talk about how great her relationship is because she feels bad about people who are still suffering. Girlfriend, the best thing you can do is give other people hope that you have been in the same place they are, and now you have escaped and are doing better. Hope is probably the best thing that we can offer other people. Hope, an aspect of joy, is incredibly motivating, nourishing, empowering for people. And a part of compassion is offering hope. Whereas in empathy, we just say, oh, I know how you feel, that's terrible. There's no solution on the other side of that. Which is why empathy is often about our own unresolved feelings. We all have them. And being able to sort out what's mine and what's not mine is really important in relationship, and particularly right now in the world at large. I keep speaking about this because it keeps coming up that as people are dropping into themselves, they can feel this kind of existential angst that's happening. It's in the news. It's just kind of on the air right now. A lot of people are really afraid of uncertainty. They're afraid of the future. There's financial insecurity. And most of us, whether we're aware of it or not, are tapped in on the spiritual, on the transpersonal, on the non-physical energetic level, and we can just feel that. Sorting through what of that is mine and what is just kind of static that I'm picking up, and being able to separate myself from the static and being able to just be with what's mine is really important. The most powerful place we can be is deeply in our body, feeling our own feelings, doing that inner work of processing and sorting and digesting the information that we take in every day. And this can't be stated enough these days. It's really important to be mindful about the information that you're taking in. How much time are you spending on the news? How much time are you spending on social media porn? How much time are you spending thinking about the future and not being present in the reality that is actually the present moment? This is our reality right now. Whatever's here, that's our work to do. And whatever anybody's reality, that's their karmic path. Can we be helpful to them? Absolutely. Are we supposed to be helpful? Yes. Are we supposed to use our gifts and talents in service of others and to make the world a better place? We are. But it's not helpful to deny myself peace and joy and reading a book or doing some of my artwork or gardening in my backyard because somebody might not have a garden or they might not have access to the internet or somebody might not have enough food to eat. There is always suffering in the world. It's important that we're aware of that. And for myself, it's really important for me to have the correct perspective on what I can actually do about it. Becoming overwhelmed by the reality of the suffering of the world is not helpful. The ultimate reality of life is so complex, and each person has their own unique path. Each person has their work to do, no matter how tragic. I've been in some pretty dire circumstances in my life. I've been homeless, I've filed bankruptcy, I've been divorced twice, I buried a lot of people, I've suffered all kinds of addictions. I know about difficulty. I also know about prosperity and success and joy. And that's been my individual path. There are a lot of ways to understand each soul's journey through this lifetime as a human. And I have to say, in my own work and in my work with clients, I don't believe that people's life circumstance is ever a coincidence or ever a mistake, no matter how dire or how difficult. On a soul level, we incarnate into our life circumstance for whatever reason in our soul's journey through this particular time through. That includes our race, our ethnicity, our socioeconomic status, our sexual orientation, our body shape and size, the family of origin we have, our gifts and talents. It's all part of this very complicated karma, and over again, every minute, we have opportunities to grow and to heal and to transform. All of us. I've dedicated my life to helping people, and I've worked with a huge range from wealthy women who live in Pacific Heights, who are sexually abused by their father, to a sex worker who lives in a flea bag hotel, all in between, also sexually abused by her father. Big range, same issues. Whoa. I'm neither smart enough nor arrogant enough to pretend that I understand what each soul's journey is through this life. I know that I can be helpful. I know that being in a place of compassion is the best place to be. I know that being in my own truth of who I am and bringing that into the world is my job. And being overwhelmed or overrun by what I perceive to be the suffering of others renders me useless and impotent, and can even feed the hopelessness that the people that I feel bad about are suffering from. And there's always hope. As long as we're breathing, there's hope. There's hope for change, transformation, growth. We limit the possibilities of the limitless so much as humans. The miracles that I've seen happen that I've experienced in my own life, that's my job, to bring those forward, to shine the light on people, to tell them there's hope, to tell them the possibility for change is ever present. There's a lot of prophecy, future projections, people predicting what the future is going to be like. The one thing I know about the future predictions is that whatever I think is going to happen never happens. And I also know that people tend to project fearfully into the future, and that's not helpful at all. We need to co-create this thing going forward. And again, the possibilities for change and hope and healing are exponentially greater than what we expect or have faith in as humans. I'm from Boston. I remember when the Boston Harbor was getting cleaned up. It was a terrible mess. They used to dump all the sewage right into Boston Harbor. It was the most polluted harbor in the country. They predicted it was going to take like 35 years or something for it to clean up. It cleaned up in 5. Oh my God. Just from a few weeks of the factories being shut down because of COVID-19 in China, the skies are clear for the first time in decades. I heard there's swans and dolphins in the canals in Venice. I have terrible arthritis. I'm actually a candidate for a knee replacement in my left knee. If you see the x-ray, it's kind of horrible. The whole knee's collapsed on itself. I started to lift weights. I started to do squats. I'm so strong now, and it happened really fast. I don't have any pain in my knee now. And although my leg is still crooked, I walk with less of a limp than I ever have. Our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our spirit are incredibly plastic, capable of incredible adaptation. In just a few weeks, sheltering at home actually feels like the new normal. My daughter and I were talking about it. It's going to be weird when everything's open again now. We're so adaptable. Now, more than ever, the world needs your light. It needs your joy. It needs your best self. It needs your hope and all the good stuff you have. Bring it on. Bring it out. Be a beacon to those that are suffering. Use what's good in your life to help others. Expand your empathy into compassion that holds hope and constructive action. That's the most powerful place to be. And it doesn't make the burden of others heavier. It lightens the load for everyone. I've moved all my clients to remote, FaceTime, phone, and Zoom. If you're interested in booking a session, send me an email at info@reneemckenna.com. I'm offering sliding scale to anybody who's in financial distress right now, so please don't let money be an issue. If you want to pick up a copy of my new book, Allies and Demons, Working with Spirit for Power and Healing, it's on Amazon. It's also on my website at reneemckenna.com. And my audiobook is almost done. It should be out in the next couple of weeks. Be safe, stay well. Until we meet again, this is Renee McKenna at Spiritual Psychology.